We are starting a new series today. It's called Faithful, FAITHFULL, right? So that we can be full of faith, and we're going to be studying different aspects of faith that we can apply to our life in different areas. So this part one today is from my Bible study group. There will be about 3 or 4 parts to this series. The third part we're still in right now. This is our first part that we've already went over. I have the notes here, but I want to share it with you. I wanted to do a video to get the audio out there so that you guys can really understand, because I write it and I post it on my IG, our notes, but I really want to go over it with you guys so that you can pull from it, learn from it, and then apply it to your life as well. So this first one, our first session was the faith to give, okay? And we're going to be covering the story of Cain and Abel, right? So that's in chapter 4 of Genesis 4, that's verses 1 through 16, okay? And it's a short story, but it's a lot that's packed into this short story. Before we begin reading the story of Cain and Abel, I think we need to understand who Cain and Abel came from. They came from Adam and Eve, okay? Adam and Eve, who were in the Garden of Eden, who disobeyed the Lord, who let the serpent deceive them, and sin fell over the world, right? So they were kicked out of the Garden of Eden. They were disobedient. They weren't listening. So they already started this thing off wrong, right? So now this is their offspring. These are their kids. Cain is the older son. Abel is the younger son. So I'm going to go ahead and read it, and then we're going to pull from it, and I'm going to let you know why we titled The Faith to Give and what we learned from this story. It says, now Adam had sexual relations with his wife Eve, and she became pregnant. When she gave birth to Cain, she said, with the Lord's help, I have produced a man. Later, she gave birth to his brother and named him Abel. When they grew up, Abel became a shepherd while Cain cultivated the ground. When it was time for the harvest, Cain presented some of his crops as a gift to the Lord. Abel also brought a gift, the best of the firstborn lambs from his flock. The Lord accepted Abel and his gift, but he did not accept Cain and his gift. This made Cain very angry, and he looked dejected. Why are you so angry? The Lord asked Cain. Why do you look so dejected? You will be accepted if you do what is right, but if you refuse to do what is right, then watch out. Sin is crouching at the door, eager to control you, but you must subdue and master it and be its master. One day, Cain suggested to his brother, let's go out into the fields. And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and he killed him. Afterward, the Lord asked Cain, where's your brother? Where's Abel? I don't know, Cain responded. Am I my brother's guardian? But the Lord said, what have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are cursed and banished from the ground, which has swallowed your brother's blood. No longer will the ground yield crops for you, no matter how hard you work. From now on, you will be a homeless wanderer of the earth. Cain replied to the Lord, my punishment is too great for me to bear. You have banished me from the land, and from your presence you have made me a homeless wanderer. Anyone who finds me will kill me. The Lord replied, no, for I will give a 7-fold punishment to anyone who kills you. Then the Lord put a mark on Cain to warn anyone who might try to kill him. So Cain left the Lord's presence and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Now, we titled this The Faith to Give because obviously you see the two contrasting offerings that Cain and Abel offered up to the Lord. Now, if we go back closely into verse 3 and 4, it says, when it was time for the harvest, Cain presented some of his crops as a gift to the Lord, some of his crops as a gift. Okay, it says, but Abel also brought a gift, the best of the firstborn lambs from his flock. So this tells us there was a major difference in what they gave. Cain gave, he gave some of his crops to the Lord, but Abel came with the best of his firstborn of his lambs. He gave God his best. Okay. So and then what transpires after that is the fact that Cain gets very jealous, right? This spirit of jealousy, this spirit of bitterness, this spirit of murder overtakes Cain. And so what happens in our lives when we choose to give, okay, and that's why this is called the faith to give. When we choose to give, whether it's literally giving something, whether it's giving our time or our energy or our money, our tithing, when we give to the Lord, okay, and God accepts that offering and God blesses you, what happens is sometimes the people around us who are closest to us can become jealous. Now, that I don't think that they're doing it on purpose, but it's a spirit that's traveling, right? The enemy is always looking for some place to live. And so when he sees you building the kingdom, when he sees you giving up the best of what you have for God, the enemy will send people who were closest to you, he will get all attached to their spirits and send those people after you, right? And in an extreme case, Cain killed his brother Abel, right? He planted a spirit of murder and of hatred in him so that he could destroy his brother. But here's the thing that we learn is that he died a physical death, but spiritually he lived on. Because if you go all the way to the New Testament, in Hebrews 11, verses 1 through 4, it covers the story of Cain and Abel and the power behind Abel's faith to give his best to God. So he died a physical death, but spiritually he lived on, right? And he's still written about. And so what we have to understand is that when you do have the faith to give, and I'm not just talking, monetarily, I'm not just talking like money, but when you have the faith to give your time, when you have the faith to give your love, when you have the faith to give offerings, when you have the faith to sacrifice, when you have the faith to grow in Christ, when you have the faith to love the Lord, when God accepts those things, God will bless you. Okay, but we have to understand what comes with that. When we do those things, that will sometimes put a wedge between some of the people closest to us, some of our family members, because they may not be on that same page with you. It is what it is. They may not want to build the kingdom like you do. And it's not saying that they're bad people, but just be on the lookout and remember that when you do have the faith to give, okay, it will sometimes plant seeds in other people around you when God begins to bless you for that giving. All right. And then that's when the enemy gets in other people's spirits and they begin to strategize, because the enemy is very manipulative. He's very strategic in his approach. He doesn't use things necessarily. He uses like people, right, to get in your mind, to ruin your mind. So what you have to understand is that this faith to give, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And giving is something that we all should want to do, right? We all should want to give out of a place of love. And the beautiful part about this story is that in the ending verses, after Cain was banished to be a wanderer over the earth, he was so worried about his punishment that he was like, I'm gonna get murdered, like somebody's gonna kill me. But God says, you know what? I'm gonna plant a red dot on your head, right? I'm gonna mark you. God says, I'm gonna mark you so that anybody who kills you will get a sevenfold punishment. So God still showed grace and mercy to Cain after he killed his brother. Now, if we go back to verse 8, it says, one day Cain suggested to his brother, let's go out into the fields. And this was after God asked Cain why he was so angry. And he said, sin is crouching at your door. This is what the Lord told Cain. He told him, like, listen, there's something festering in your heart. There's something building up in your spirit. You need to handle that, basically. And so what happens sometimes is when we have those things growing inside of us, whether it's like a spirit of envy, a spirit of bitterness, of hatred, of jealousy, of murder, when those things are festering, when you hear God telling you that you need to take care of it, you need to get on it. Because what happens is we premeditate things. When it says one day Cain suggested to his brother, let's go out into the fields, what that tells me is that he probably calculated this. He probably went and thought about it and was dwelling on it and harping on it alone in his alone time, figuring out a way to ruin his brother's life. And Abel, thinking that I'm just going to go on a night stroll with my brother, lost his life because his brother let that spirit of murder and that spirit of hatred build up inside of him. So I'm going to reiterate to you guys, we can be on both ends of the spectrum. We can be either Cain or we can be Abel. We can be haters, we can be negative, we can be bitter, we can be those who want to harm those closest to us, or we can be the person who doesn't mind giving up our best to build the kingdom, giving up our best as an offering to God. But you got to understand what comes with that. It ain't easy. It ain't easy, because when you do sacrifice, when you do give up your best, like I said earlier, your time, your energy, your money, your love, your relationship, when you're giving that to God, okay, it will put a separation between you and some of the people who you thought was with you, even family members, even close friends. So my question to you all as I end this video is, do you have the faith to give? Money, love, your energy, your time, commitment, obedience. Do you have the faith to give? Because when you begin to give, God is going to bless you. And because you're so blessed, that may put a wedge between some of the relationships between you and some of the people you love the most. But what it'll also do is draw other people in who are supposed to be around you. Remember, Abel died a physical death, but spiritually he lived on, because in Hebrews, they still glorify his faith. Do you have the faith to give? What I want you guys to do is go to my Instagram. It is Nate Jameson Speaks. That's NateJamesonSpeaks. My Twitter is Speak Nate Speak, SpeakNateSpeak. And my Snapchat is NJJameson, NJJAMESON. Please let me know if this video blessed you, if there was something that I missed that I should have hit on. Comment, like it, share, subscribe to my channel, send this around to different people. But this is part one, the faith to give. I want you guys to have the faith to give your all to God, to give your all to Christ, to give your all in money, to give your all in the community, to give your all to your friends, to give your all to people who need your help, because God will bless you for doing that if it's coming out of a place of love. What we can infer from this story is that maybe Cain's offering wasn't out of a place of love. It was out of a place of, this is a burden, because I'm gonna just give him some of my crops. Are you just giving God some of what you have? Or are you truly giving God everything that you have, the best of what you have? So let me know if this video blessed you. Part 2 will be coming up soon. I think you guys will really, really like that one as well. Then you'll get part 3 and possibly a part 4. So thank you so much for listening ahead of time. I love you guys. God bless you.